still staying on the subject of safety, the safety of our water, among others, not just in the Toddy end, and we are talking about Agotime and other areas, but we have the Ghana Water Company Limited spokesperson here joining the conversation. He speaks for them. I'm talking about none other than Stanley Martey. Good morning, sir.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. I think the very last time we had an interaction was it the Habitat Fair when we were at the Accra International Conference?
Yeah. And I think that after that we've spoken about Galamsey
a number of times.
Yeah, a number of times.
But not physically like this. Okay, so it's good to be privileged to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
In terms of this issue, the spillage of agrochemicals and the aftermath, how problematic is it from your reading? Yeah,
thank you very much. The process for water treatment per our standards is such that it wouldn't pose any threat to us. So I'm saying this because on hourly basis we test at the raw water, and it's not because of this issue alone, but that is the standard operating procedure, that on the hourly basis we test the raw water, and at every stage of the treatment process you also test the water, so that if there's any anomaly or something that something untoward, I mean, we ensure that the production process is stopped entirely, and then we try to rectify all the challenges before we continue with production. So I'd want to assure the people, the Ghanaian people, I want to assure the people of the Volta region, and that currently it is no threat, and per our standard operating procedures, it shouldn't be any cause for worry.
So you're giving the water, a clean bill of health, if you like.
Yes,
so far.
Yes. I know, and there are so many ways that we are able to check the raw water as to its potency, or as to whether there's some strange chemicals or something in the system. Even the fishes in the system, every morning, every time we check ashore, and even the death of one fish on shore is a cause for alarm. Okay, And like I said, we check on the quality on hourly basis. So
hourly basis.
Hourly basis, and there are records.
Is this just for the Volta?
That is the standard operating procedure for all our treatment plants.
I see.
Okay, so that if there's anything that our treatment process cannot manage, the process is stopped immediately, and then we try to rectify the situation before we continue with production. You remember that in Adan last year, when the spillage this thing started, we had serious stability, and because of that, we couldn't produce at Adan. We are able to produce, let's say, Galamsey water in the western region. Why were we not able to produce polluted water from Adan? It's because of the nature of the treatment plant. Now, the treatment plant was built taking into consideration the raw water quality, which was studied over a long period of time. Okay, so that at the time we had nothing like pollution above a certain level or turbidity above a certain level. So the treatment plant was designed in that way. Now, when the pollution or when turbidity went above that level, we needed to shut down the plant, and that caused the problem in Adan. So it's a standard operating procedure, and per every treatment plant that we have, and then every water source that we use, there are standard operating procedures. So there's no cause for alarm at all. Immediately something different happens that will threaten the process, we just shut it down.
All right, which means you've been engaging on the back of this spillage of agrochemicals. You've been engaging. We've heard from the Fisheries Commission. They say they've tested the fish, and so far they are not unnecessarily agitated or stressed. Yeah. They seem to be okay. There's COAS, which has also given some approval pending other investigations. We've not heard from the EPA. We've not heard from
we are working
the
with all agencies, including the Standards Authority, Ghana Standards Authority. And so we don't have problem. And then the final water itself also is expected to meet a certain quality. For instance, it's supposed to meet the WHO and that of the Ghana Standards Authority standards for drinking water. Right. Now, as a company, we also have our standards, which is higher than that of the Ghana Standards Authority. And then the Standards Authority standards is also higher than that of WHO. So if you're able to meet our standards, then the water that flows out of the system meets the best of of standards, so that there's no cause for alarm at all. So all Ghanaians should rest assured that we will not do anything untoward to ensure to see people suffer as a result of contamination of the river body. No, we won't do that. And bear in mind that those of us treating the water, okay, also consume the water. Right. So if we do the wrong thing, it affects us as well, and we wouldn't do that. Apart from us, we have relatives in the system. Right. But per our standards, there's no way that will happen. So Ghanaians should rest assured.
The danger, though, and I was discussing that with the regional minister, there are some who use untreated water for basic activities, some even for farming. It means you cannot vouch for such water,
No, because ours is treated water, potable water.
Right.
Okay, so if you go to consume untreated water, then that's at your risk, and we do not have control over that one.
All right. Let's talk about your treatment processes. Are you still using polymers to treat our water?
Yes. Polymers is a high standard of our normal alum that we use. It belongs to the same compounds, okay? But then it's of a higher standard and more expensive. And so with the galamsey water...
Much more expensive.
Much more expensive, about 4 times more expensive than that of alum. And if you look at the galamsey water, at the time that we started using polymers, we experienced some agitations in the system, such that the alum wasn't able to meet the standards very well. So there was the need for us to move into the polymers, and that is what we are currently using. We are hoping that turbidity will improve as we see now, let's say, in the central and western regions. And if that is to continue...
Turbidity has improved in the central and western.
Yeah. As at last Friday, we had 2,000 NTU, and from like 15,000 down to 9,000, and now we are around 2,000. So if we are able to go down into the hundreds and into the tens, we may have to resort back to the alum, which is cheaper. And that will also impact positively on the tariff. Because the cost of production is high, then it will affect the tariff. But if it is low, it will also impact positively on the tariff, for the tariffs to come down. And that is why we keep urging Ghanaians that let the fight be ours. Everybody should be part of the fight against the pollution of our river bodies. If it so happens, we'll all will benefit, other than a few recalcitrant individuals who are only thinking of their stomachs and pockets.
2 quick questions. So I don't know whether you have any idea what is accounting for this reduction in the NTU levels, but also even before you get to that, can you walk us through again the central and western regions? You say they've fallen from about what rate NTU
around
to about
15,000 NTU.
Around 15,000.
In November, December, we issued a release.
That's 2024.
That turbidity was around 15,000. Okay, so we had to work on that. Government also got involved. It reduced to around 10,000. And now, as I speak, as at last Friday, it was around 2,000. I'm yet to get the report for this morning. Then I'll be able to tell whether it's going down further. But we are also seeing rains upstream, and that could also be part of it. And then a government directive on the seizure of alluvial mining.
I see. Why I had you repeat that, because it's interesting. It then shows that if we are a bit more committed to this fight, a whole lot can be done. If in November, December, we're looking at 15,000 NTU, which is mind-boggling, and in February, getting to the end of February, we're looking at about 2,000 NTU. It means if we put in a lot more action, we can win this battle.
And that is what we've been saying every time. And that is why anytime there's a change, we want the whole public to know that there's been a change. And we're excited about it. So let's continue with that action so that we'll still come down. But unfortunately, it's always short-lived. So it affects all of us. If this is to continue, you will see a dramatic or drastic change in our tariffs. Now we are entering into a new tariff regime this year. And so all these things will be worked on. If, for instance, cost of production is low and expected to be low or projected to be low in the next year or two, definitely it will impact on the tariff. Now we also have the quarterly adjustment review, such that every quarter they will look at all the parameters. And then if it impacts positively, why not? And I also pay water bill. So if the bill comes down, I'll be excited about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the PURC will comply when all those changes are brought to bear.
So far they've worked very well, and we are happy with the work that they are doing.
Right.
So you realize that in recent times we don't have much grudges.
You don't have many grudges to deal with. But just staying on that position, so central and western regions showing some positive outlook when it comes to turbidity levels.
Yes.
But generally, are they the standalone ones?
And now the production is also increasing. So central region now is fine. Almost every part of central region, with the exception of Befi Chrome, because the water level is low. But Sechaheman is producing at full capacity. Brimso is producing at full capacity. And it's also impacting on Daboase. The bus is also producing at full capacity. Now we expect early rains. The dry season really disturbed that in December and January. We are seeing some signs, even in Accra. We are hoping that it will rain upstream. Rains in Accra do not impact on our river bodies, but rains upstream impact on our water bodies, and then it favors us. So we are seeing positive signs. If it's to continue, then we should see much more improvement. The other challenge will be, let's say, our distribution. We have some old equipment and all that. We are doing everything possible to ensure that we change some of these things. They are capital intensive, so it's a bit difficult to do it on our own. But we are managing. We are using our internally generated funds to do some of these jobs. And it's been positive so far. We hope that this year is going to continue like that. Now, if you look at Accra, there's a huge gap between demand and supply, especially because of urbanization and growth in population and the development around and all that. So what we are looking at now is to ensure that there's expansion of the Pong treatment plant and that of the Weja treatment plant, so we're able to bridge the gap between demand and supply. Diesel is not functioning as expected. It is functioning, but not as we expect, considering the age of the plant. Okay, but we are still working closely with the operators to ensure that it also produces at optimum, so that we can have a stable system. Yeah.
I was asking for a general picture. There are some standalone positives, Central Western region, among others. Which are the worst affected areas still, currently, when it comes to turbidity levels?
I think the Eastern region is still facing some challenges. But we are hoping that the directive by the president and then the actions being taken will also help in that vein. Apart from that, I think we are seeing some improvement, and we are still monitoring. Okay, so we hope that things will go well, and anything that happens, we wouldn't hesitate at all to inform the public.
Let me briefly go back to the issue of using polymers, which, of course, like you said, we all want that to change, because then it also impacts our pockets positively. Is it sustainable?
Yes and no. Yes, because if we are still using it, then the tariff will be as it is or could go higher. Okay, which means that then we can have some money to still be buying them. And then no, because if pollution or the raw water quality is still bad, okay, but tariffs go down, then it won't be sustainable, because then we wouldn't be able to buy the chemicals. Okay, so it is for all of us, okay, to take a position. Do we want lower tariffs or we want higher tariffs? If we want lower tariffs, then it means we all have to help in the fight against pollution of our river bodies. You will realize that since we started this program, I hardly mentioned Galamsey. Okay, so that it is not Galamsey alone that pollutes our river bodies. All our actions within our communities impact on our rivers. Okay, so that if we're able to cease pollution, the raw water quality will improve. And then we wouldn't have to use expensive chemicals and high volumes of the chemicals to make production expensive. So that is the scenario. And we all need to think through. In our own small ways, we can do something. Okay, if you live in a compound house and it's about raining and somebody picks rubbish and straight to the drains, you should stop the person, because all the rubbish will end up in a river body. And it's not only in Accra, but throughout the country. Okay, so every action of ours impacts on the river bodies and then definitely pollutes our river bodies. And that affects Ghana water.
Now that we're talking about all of this, Galamsey is our reality for now, and we have to deal with it on the back of the President's directive, among others. But the issue of polymers, I'll go back to this question. I know it's a tricky one for you, but the water we consume, usually when you fetch and you leave it for a while, you would see some sediment at the bottom of it over time. It's whitish and all of that. Some say it is the chemicals that are used. I mean, it wouldn't be new, because I remember even in decades ago, you would still see some sediment at the bottom of the water. What is that? Okay, so the sediments that we see, it's not from our treatment plant.
Okay. The sediments could be the receptacle in which you store your water. Okay. Now, most of us now are using reservoirs because we are unable to meet the demand. So people store water. Now, there are people who have never in the life of their reservoir cleaned it.
Right.
You understand? You are supposed to be cleaning all receptacles at least once every quarter. Okay? So if you don't do that, and let's say water hasn't flowed for a day or two, so the levels are down. When water starts flowing into the tank again, it will agitate the dirt beneath it, which settles. Okay, so then definitely it will flow into your lines. And so there is no way per our treatment process for particles to leave our treatment plant.
So there's no natural sediments that will come from water produced by the GWCL.
Yeah. So this is the first scenario that I've given.
Okay, all right.
The other scenario may also be as a result of some old pipelines, which I admit to.
Okay.
Now, with the old gorgeous Beck pipelines that we've had, the ductile iron pipes that have encrusted and all that, there's the possibility of the water washing some of the debris into our homes, which we are doing everything possible to work on. So we are using our own funds to change some of the old some of the old pipelines within the system, and that will stop that. So that is another bit of it. Now, the other aspect is the cloudy nature of the water sometimes when we fetch water directly from our lines. And that one is positive. It is positive because the cloudiness of the water is as a result of the post-chlorination that we do. So we have a water quality assurance department that moves through our communities on a daily basis, and we have strategic locations where we still introduce some chemicals into the system to take care of some sediments that may have seeped through the lines. So when we fetch the water, we realize that it is cloudy, and seconds after it fades off. Okay, and so it is safe for consumption. Sometimes you are able to smell the scent of chlorine. It's a result of the post-chlorination that we do within the system. So there's no problem to that effect. Now, sometimes when we repair best within the communities, obviously because our lines are buried, some debris will seep through the lines, and then when we open the taps, it will flow into our homes. So sometimes you open your tap and you see dirty water that will flow for about between 5 and 10 seconds. When it so happens, the water that flows is clear and cloudy. The cloudiness is a result of the cleaning of the lines or flushing of the lines after the repair of the lines. And then when that dirt flows for about 10-15 seconds, the water becomes clean and safe for consumption. So we shouldn't be agitated or we shouldn't be worried when we see some of these things. Because we also do post-chlorination and some chemical processes, sometimes even while the water is flowing, there's some chemical reactions going on, which is not harmful to your body. Okay, so yeah, it's not harmful. You understand? So when the water is fetched into a container and those things settle, it is still safe for consumption, unless, of course, it is not as a result of what we have done, maybe some form of pollution as well, could also be. Now, you also realize that people have done a lot of illegal connection. And when they're doing illegal connection, they use non-professionals. So since the lines are buried, if you do not do it well, definitely there'll be some seepages. People lay pipelines in drains and all that. And those ones are not healthy. So if there's a burst, you may not know. Or if there's maybe some filtration on the line, you may not know. And obviously, the dirty water could seep through the line. So that may not be from Ghana Water, but the human activities that go on within our communities. And that is why we also urge everybody that if somebody is doing an illegal connection, don't assume that you are not affected. You are affected in one way or the other. So you need to stop the person. You can use citizens' arrest to stop the person or call the nearest Ghana Water Company Limited and ensure that that is not done. Let's use professionals in doing that. And the professionals are Ghana Water Company staff. I
see. Let's talk about the safety of drinking raw water as processed by the Ghana Water Company Limited. I remember how the former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources famously said at a point that he drank, tap water every day. And there was an uproar on the back of that. Are you saying that it is perfectly safe? There are two issues, and I'm reflecting what people tell me, which I'm going to ask you. The chlorination you speak of, the cloudiness and all of that. Some people feel, okay, that's a lot of chlorine in there. What is the impact on our bodies? And then again, galamsey and the presence of heavy metals. Are you saying that with all of this, water that you produce, once there are no side issues, perforations, or illegal connections, are safe for drinking without any processing? Yeah.
So let me take them one after the other. Okay. And yes, what the Lands Minister said is true. And anytime, I said that all the time. If you come to my home, I'll serve you tap water because I drink tap water. Okay, I drink tap water every day.
Without any
no filtration, no
filtration
nothing. No filtration, no nothing. I just ensure that my tank is cleaned on a regular basis. Let's say once every quarter, or let's say half a year. I try to do it out 2-3 times in a year. So I drink directly from the tap, and there are no challenge.
Stanley Martey drinks tap water.
Yes, and take it from me. And anybody who has been to my home will tell you that maybe when you get visitors, especially foreign visitors, or you get other visitors, you want to serve them bottled water and all that. But I drink directly from the tap. My family drinks directly from the tap. And it is safe for consumption. And indeed, surveys from CSIR, okay, tap water, okay, benchmarked with other packaged water. Tap water is always the best.
Really?
But the water that flows is always fresh. If you fetch water directly from the tap, it means that it is fresh because we keep producing, or production is 24/7, non-stop. Okay, and we don't store the water before serving people. Even when we store, let's say in our huge reservoirs, it is for us. It just is to enable us distribute the water, but not storing the water for days. Okay. You understand? So water that comes directly from the tap is fresh. Okay, compared to packaged water that may have lived on the shelf for a while before you consuming it. So check on the website for the CSR, and you realize that every annual survey on water, okay, tap water is the best. Okay, yes, and the West is the sachet water.
The West is the sachet.
That's sachet water. Because even the production process, you can vouch.
Some of them you can't vouch for them. And then again, you talk about it's being carried, being exposed to the sun and what that does.
Yes, and we know the plastic that is used in the packaging. When the sun, when it comes into contact with the sun, there's some emissions that contaminates the water and all that. Sometimes we assume that these things are nothing and we just consume them. But science tells us that they have long-term impact on us.
I mean, I'm fully aware of the point you made, but just a quick question. Yes, you talk about how fresh the water is when it comes through the taps, but a lot of them also source water from you. There are those who may want to use, underground sources and all that, but some of them source from you and process further. So
in fact, 95%.
If they do, how come your water is better than theirs?
So 95% or even more, okay, source from us. But the process, okay, for instance, Ghana Water has a subsidiary where we produce bottled water, packaged water as well. Now we go through stringent processes, okay, including using some reverse membranes, reverse osmosis membranes, and all that. And then I've even forgotten the process. I mean, the process to which we take the water through, okay. And our water is also close to the source. Our plant is at Pong, so directly, I mean, the treatment and everything is directly from its source. Okay, so our packaged water, okay, as compared to the others.
Which is what, the G, is that the G water?
G water. Right. It's also far better than the others. Now, I'm saying so because of the processes that some of them go through. Now, for instance, most people who use, who produce the sachet water, now what are the processes? Some of them just filter them. They do not have well ventilated
production
areas and all that. And do they use the right materials? How often do they clean their filters? Are they even filtering? Now, those who are involved in their production, how do they manage that? Some time ago, we went on our own to do some survey, looked at some of these. Some people were producing in garages. And some people were using foam, ordinary foam, to filter the water. Now, sometimes you see even the dirt that's accumulated in the foam, but then they use that rather in filtering the water. And what do you expect when that happens? So we expect that their association will monitor their members, and those who are not members must also be monitored by, let's say, Ghana Food and Drugs Board and the Standards Authority and all that. So some of these things will be stopped and all that. So I can't vouch for those ones. Okay, so instead of adding value to our water before package, the belief is that they rather devalue the water, or in some case contaminate the water before bagging. And then look at the way it is transported on the street. You see these tricycles, and they overload them. Sometimes they fall on the street, and they put them back into the system, also into the bikes, and then deliver them. They are not consumed immediately. Some could be on the shelves for weeks before they are consumed and all that. And because of that, you can't compare that to tap water, which is fresh, okay, treated, and same day is flowing through your water. No water in your tap will be is more than 24 hours old, except if you are storing water in your tank. But if you're fetching directly from the tap, then it is less than 24 hours old.
Right. Let's look at the second component when it comes to the impact of illegal mining, and I'm talking about heavy metal components. You mentioned that for the G water, and that was the very next point I was about to get to. You use some level of reverse osmosis, which is probably the safest way of treating water. Is that, if things remain as they are in terms of turbidity levels and all of that, or they get worse, God willing they don't, is that the next step, looking at the cost factor versus safety issues?
Now, if you look at the way the membranes are, if you have to use membranes to, let's say, treat galamsey water, it means every hour you have to be changing your membranes. Because galamsey water is made of sand and stone particles. Okay? And then the membranes are very, very tiny.
Sensitive?
Yeah, very, very. Such that you may have, even with our pumps, okay? If you look at our sumps and then the way our abstraction process is, almost instead of, let's say, servicing our pumps like once in a month, we've had to do it like once in a week or sometimes less, okay? Because the sumps are filled with sand particles and it affects the pumps.
Right.
Okay, now we can't compromise on the safety of our pumps. So what we do is we need to service these pumps as regularly as we can. And it affects our downtimes. Because instead of just shutting down or putting off a plant for, let's say, 24 hours in 30 days, okay, we have had to do it 24 hours in 7 days. And it affects the pressures in the lines. It affects our downtimes. It affects us. Sometimes, instead of 24 hours, it goes to 48 hours because we need to remove almost everything, wash them clean, and then we'll fix them back. And then after every 7 days or after every 6 days, or depending on the turbidity of the water, and then the sand particles in the sumps, we've had to stop them and then service them. Now, the moment,
which also means cost, right?
Yes, yes. And the moment you fail in that, the pumps break down. There's been times where we have serviced a pump and in less than a week, all 3 pumps have broken down. For instance, in Secheman, somewhere 2-3 years ago, and we were there with our minister, and it was shocking. I mean, 3 new pumps that have been fitted, they've been working for a few months, and then serviced at a particular time, and in less than a week, they all broke down because of the high turbidity of the water. Stone particles and other particles seeping through the pumps and breaking down the shafts and all that. And it's expensive to put them back on board. I mean, repairing them is quite expensive. Okay, so, we are just producing, not even breaking even. We are not making any profit. We are not even breaking even because if you look at cost of production,
they're not breaking even.
We are not.
I mean,
we are not. Sometimes the tariff is such
any
that
business, even the charity ones, they want to at least break even. So they are not doing it for profit. If you are falling below breaking even, it means that's a disastrous situation.
And then that is the challenge that we have with our tariffs every time. Okay, so that they give you a tariff, give you projected revenues and all that. Okay, but then the system is such that even the projections do not work because, for instance, you project that we are going to have stability between 3,000 and 6,000. As a result, you are going to use a certain quantity of chemicals. And then now it shoots up to, let's say, 15,000. It affects the tariff. Now your downtimes, you projected downtime of, let's say, 48 hours within 30 days. And now you are doing 48 hours every 7 days. Obviously, it's going to affect so your revenue target per your tariffs is supposed to be a certain figure, but because cost of production keeps increasing, now you go below it. So how do you break even?
And that also brings me to I was curious because twice in this conversation, at least twice, you've mentioned that you've done some things with your own internal funds.
Yeah.
IGF,
yes.
basically.
Yes.
What things are you having to do with your own funds instead of getting maybe support? And what does that mean to the sustainability of the Ghana Water Company Limited?
So last 2 years, we changed all pumps in our thermal booster station. Now one pump is close to about 5 million euro, and we changed 4 pumps.
20 million euros.
So you can imagine. Now we are changing some of these pumps. Now if you go to Wager, our abstraction point, we've changed 4 new pumps, no, 3 new out of the 4 pumps. In November, we're facing some challenges within the western part of Accra. So we have had to change the pumps in Wager. So we changed 3 out of 4, same cost. Okay, and it is not only in Accra, but throughout the regions, we are facing similar challenges. Recently, the challenge in the Volta region, in Peve, okay, we've ordered for 3 new pumps, which we're expecting somewhere in April. So all these things come on board. And if you don't, because that pump, that treatment plant was built somewhere it's about 31 years old, okay? And then here we are. I mean, pumps that have been working for 31 years old. What do we expect? We've even managed it to this point because of our standard operating procedures, because of our in-house procedures for maintenance and all that. If it hadn't been for the stringent maintenance of our systems, that pump should have broken down long ago. So we ordered for new ones, and all these ones are coming from our internally generated funds. Now there are stretches, like with the long stretches of pipelines that we are changing, okay, and it's all coming from the little money that we are collecting. So seriously, we are owing a lot of industries that produce for us. Okay, so what we do is, because we collect revenue on daily basis, the little that comes in, you pay somebody small, and then they supply, you pay this one small, sometimes they supply, and it takes, let's say, sometimes 6 months to even pay our supplies and all that. So, and seriously, let me also say this, that if it hadn't been for the prudent management of the Ghana Water Company Limited, I don't know what would have been our situation currently. You understand? So there's a strong team working, we motivate each other to ensure that the system runs all the time. So you see us looking comfortable, but we do not sleep. We do not sleep. Okay, everything about us is water. And we just do everything possible to ensure that the people of Ghana get good drinking water at a very good cost, thanks to PULC.
So 2 quick questions on the back of the many points you've made. That means that with some of these problems, downtime issues, having to deal with your pumps and all of that, and payment of vendors and all that, it also impacts the days of flow, because you realize that in some places you are getting water twice a week. If you miss out, that's it. Which is why people are forced to store water. And some places, sometimes it can even be once a week. But there are other areas too where it flows a lot more. It means all of this is impacting that, right?
Yes, seriously. Yeah.
And what can the current government do to bolster the work of the Ghana Water Company Limited? What can be done? Is it at the managerial level? Is it logistics? Is it money? I mean, what can be done?
Everything. Everything. So now, if you look at, let's take Accra for instance, to enable us to bridge the gap between demand and supply, extend pipelines to all areas, we need to expand the main 2 treatment plants. Now, fortunately, in 2015, when we commissioned the China Jesuba plant, the new plant in Bong, we made provision for a second phase. So now, if the second phase is to come on board, then we can inject about 80 million gallons of water into the system. Now, there are also plans to expand Wager. If we are also able to do that, then it means that we can inject more water into the system to serve the western part of Accra, including parts of the central region. Now, we have another treatment plant in Kwenyaku in the central region around the Sredro area. If we are also able to expand that one, then we can also inject more water in the system from that enclave. Now, we also have plans for Aveyime area. If you are able to bring that treatment plant on board, it means you can have more water injected from the Adan enclave getting into the Tema area. And that area has also been slated for an industrial zone. So they can also serve the industries that are there. And then the industries can even be comfortable to site themselves there, because then there'll be water. So the plans are there. And we have a new managing director now, the person of Honorable Adams with our Wakil. And with our preliminary discussions that we've had, he has that positive mind. He has a message from the president, and then at least we will hope to see the expansion or the projects that I've spoken about come on board within the next few years, and then Accra will be safe. Thankfully, we have Interplast, Duraplast, and other industries that are producing the pipelines here in Ghana. So if we are putting up the treatment plants to get supplies from these industries to extend water, will also not be a challenge. So it has to be done and done holistically. If you are putting up more treatment plants, then we can extend the pipelines. But without treatment plants, the more extensions we do, the more the challenges we create for ourselves. Because the water is not available, we extend the pipelines, and then people expect to have water. If I see a pipeline in front of my house, or if I connect to the GWCL line, I expect to have water. Right. If I connect and water is not flowing, what do you do? Right. So we need a holistic approach to the whole thing, and that is what I see in our preliminary discussions that we've had with the new managing director. And there's a solid team that he's working with. And I'm proud of the team that Ghana Water Company, Ghana Water Limited has, that we are prepared to support him, we are prepared to support government so that we'll be able to meet the SDG goals and even the government's agenda for water for all by the year 2030. We as a company also have a vision to be a world-class leader and then in the water industry and then to leave no one behind.
Leave no one behind.
Yeah.
And of course, water, which brings to mind, I remember sometime last year, I was using the Eastern region, heading somewhere, and I saw something that just got me thinking, the things we take for granted. It was some underwater, you know, these underground, I don't know, it's not a sewer, but it's more like, it's not basically a place where you would fetch water, but I saw a congregation, a number of people there, you know, in some of these communities in the Equiapem area with headpans and all that, fetching water from, this was what they were going to use for their domestic activities. And, you know, leaving no one behind brings to mind such situations. Sometimes we sit in Accra and think, Accra is Ghana. Accra is not Ghana.
Yeah, what you're saying is true. Now, all our valves have chambers. So sometimes when the valves are faulty, water gushes out and then they fill the chamber. Right. So if people lack water within the vicinity, obviously they'll go to fetch, and it's okay for consumption, except that it's unauthorized and it's not the best. Now, apart from that...
But is it hygienic? Because sometimes you look at other articulates and others that could be...
Our chambers are clean or are expected to be clean.
Right.
So if they are not clean at the time that you go to fetch, then you fetch at your own risk. So the other aspect is also, apart from we have also air valves. Now, anytime we are pumping water into an area, especially after some shutdown, okay, the air bubbles fill in the pipelines, and we need to get them out, or else they won't allow the water to flow through the pipeline. So we have air valves as well. So sometimes when we open the air valves for the air to come out and the water to flow, water comes out of the air valves and fills the chambers. And so occasionally people go to fetch. And like I say, there are two ways. If the chamber is already clean, because it is expected to be clean, and we clean them regularly. So if it is clean and you are fetching, then we are okay. But if it is not clean at the time and you fetch, then you fetch at your own risk because it's unauthorized.
I think I have two more questions for you, and then we can call it a conversation on water and beyond. There's been talk about some level of privatization for, you know, electricity, the ECG, among others. Some people feel that is what will bring efficiency, effectiveness to it. It brings to mind, you know, the 1980s and even under Rawlings, some of what took place. It also brings to mind aquavitens and everything that has happened in the past. What is your take on semi-privatization at any level? Because on the other hand, there are those who will tell you this is a national security issue. Electricity, water, you play with it. What is your position on that?
Okay, so like you rightly said, privatization is in so many ways. So many ways. So we need to look at the one that best fits our society and our community and our country. Okay, so for instance, we have the desalination plant, okay, where they produce the water. It's a BOOT arrangement, build, own, operate, and transfer after 25 years. So it's another form of privatization. Now they sell the water to us, they sell bulk water to the Ghana Water Company Limited, and then we do the distribution. Now, we've had some challenges with the way the contract is, but we are getting water from them. Okay, so assuming we can go into privatization and have some of these arrangements, okay, that will also augur well. And it shouldn't just be in Accra, it shouldn't just be desalination plants, but then quite recently we tried working on one with a company from Belgium so that they could produce water from the Akuse area. But the contract was such that it wasn't favorable to the people of Ghana. Okay, and as a company responsible for water, we wouldn't want to burden the people of Ghana just because we need water. Posterity will judge us if we fail in that. So we are still in that negotiation. It's been quite a while, and it's been so because we are not comfortable with the contract. Aquavitens was another form of privatization. as well. And I worked directly with Aquavitens at the time. Now, Aquavitens also brought on board certain things. Maybe they may not have met all their targets as expected, but they left us a legacy, which even as I speak, it has helped us in a certain way. And that was also as a result of the way the contract was carved. So we need to put all these things in place effectively. And why not? It will be good for all of us. But if it will not augur well for the people of Ghana, and trust me, with the expertise that we have, we wouldn't fall prey to that again.
And I had to bring that in on the back of the cost and other challenges that we've made mention of copiously here. Of course, if you can get some synergy, some joint venture going on, which will help all of us, why not? Just finally, Mr. Martey, what is the plan of the Ghana Water Company Limited for 2025? Here we are, New Year.
Okay, so now we have a new managing director, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, and we've had preliminary meetings with him. We are getting him acquainted into the system. We are taking him around, and then to see the challenges that we face at first hand. Now we need to juxtapose his vision, and then that of the vision of the president with that of the development plans of the Ghana Water Company Limited, and then we see the right direction to take. He's somebody who listens, and we all know that we have a president who also listens. I believe that they wouldn't just come with the political, let's say, bullying, but we are going to all see sense.
Did he just say political bullying?
Or sometimes it happens. I mean, maybe I wouldn't, maybe I'd used it wrongly, but that is it. I mean, if they are development, we are experts. As a company, we are experts. We've been in the system for a very long time. Okay, so if you listen to us, okay, and see the sense in what we are saying, vis-a-vis your vision that you come with, I'm sure we'll all succeed. But if you come on board and you wouldn't listen to us and you just want the political bit of it, then that is where the challenge is. And that is where I'll call the political bullying. It's a word that just came, and I think that is how it sounds, and that is how it looks sometimes. But then there should be that collaboration between the existing development plans and then the vision of the political elite. When that is synchronized, okay, then we can have the best way forward. And that is what we are looking up to. And so far, having been with the new managing director, and like I said, his message from the president, and then the vision that they have for the country, I'm sure we should see some positive signs within the next few months.
Stanley Martey, Yadasi, Akbe, Nagode. We're grateful that you took the time to...
If you're down from Teshi, the holy village, I'm a proud man from Teshi. And we say, Oyuadon, and then I will say, Shidabe. And so, all thanks and glory to our Maker.
Thank you so much for enriching the conversation. Of course, that is Stanley Martey, and he is Communications Manager for the Ghana Water Company Limited. But let me tell you a bit about Solar Made Ghana before we take a breather. You can select from our various solar packages ranging from 30,000 cedis to 99,000 cedis. And all our solar systems come with lithium-ion batteries, so you can get a solar water heater, a solar home system, a solar powered station, or a solar generator ranging from 1,000 watts to 20,000 watts. We also sell reverse osmosis machines for water treatment. We've just been talking about water, right? Google Solar Made Ghana to find us on both Facebook and Instagram. And you can call us on 0508 320 470. Now, Solar Made Ghana is located at Adregano, East Legon. Solar Made, we go everywhere. But staying with talk about energy and water, let's talk water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right, the tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong, durable, and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Rain or shine, Syntex tank has your back. So my people, go outside, check your tank, and if it doesn't have a tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. You know what I'm talking about. Syntex tank, family today. Join that family and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call 0244 335 168 to buy now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, strong, tough, like Mr. Martey. Well, we'll be back after the breather with In the Trends. What's trending? You find out after the break. Do stay.